Well, a CNN News 18 exclusive, all eyes on the big budget, which is going to be presented in Parliament on 1st of February. But we've already got some sneak peek into it. A big, bold budget is what we are being told is going to come in with an unprecedented level of involvement from the Prime Minister himself. The PM, in fact, if you've noticed, over the last few days has been holding long meetings with as many as 12 groups of industrialists and experts. Now, each group has had between 10 to 12 people, each meeting lasting for over 3 hours. The Prime Minister has met more than 120 people so far. Now, according to sources, he has largely been listening to the inputs he's been getting from during these meetings, and these meetings are probably the most extensive ever. And this is one of the budget, and it's a part of his budget and economic consultations to give the economy on track. And the first such mega meetings by the Prime Minister in the last 5 to 6 years. Now, this budget the government looks at is going to be a reset moment for the economy. He's been extremely involved in this year's budget exercise because a lot of hopes are pinned on this general budget. Okay, let's go across to Govt Chaudhary, moneycontrol.com, who's getting us those details. Okay, Gaurav, unprecedented involvement of the Prime Minister is what you're telling us. Obviously, there are going to be huge expectations then from the budget as well.
Yes, absolutely, Pallavi. In fact, what we hear is that the government is readying a very big set of bold initiatives that will likely be announced in the budget, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expending a considerable amount of time in personally overseeing the policy matrix, essentially aimed at engineering a quick turnaround in the economy. In fact, sources have told us that over the last few days, the Prime Minister has been brainstorming over a range of issues affecting the economy and trash out appropriate policy interventions. I think so far, until yesterday, he has had 12 meetings with groups of industrialists and experts. Each group has about 10 to 12 people, and these meetings have lasted for about 3 years or so. Over the last 6-7 days, these meetings have got very intense and focused, and these meetings have been marathon meetings with ministries and departments. Each ministry has been given a task to present a 5-year vision. Some of these meetings have gone on from 9 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Effectively demonstrating the government's intent to walk the talk, to nurse the economy back to health. He has gone through each of these presentations with a very fine tooth comb, and what sources have told us is one of the reasons he's not been seen has not been visible publicly over the last few days is primarily because he has turned his attention purely on the economy and the budget. Pallavi?
Okay, Gaurav, when he's meeting representatives of the industry of India Inc., they have also been having their own fair share of complaints, some of them being open about it, some of them not being open about it, Gaurav. Do we expect that India Inc. is going to get a satisfactory budget, so to say?
Yeah, so in the meeting with the top industrialists and the pictures which were released came out a couple of days ago, we were told that there were no official, except for one, there was nobody present in the meeting, and it was a complete free and frank discussion, and the Prime Minister actually told this group of industrialists that you can be very free and frank and about what you have to say about the problems afflicting your operations and what needs to be done. And this has been the method that he has adopted in most of the meetings. In fact, for the Indian industry, the problem for the Indian economy more is on the demand side now. Essentially, one of the surest ways to revive the economy is to put more money in the hands of people. So what we expect is that there's going to be a big set of announcements on the individual income tax front, and the middle class and the salaried class can expect a lot of relief in this budget. But having said that, the industry did place on record, industrialists did place on record their apprehensions and the problems afflicting their operations and what needs to be done. We expect a lot of announcements, particularly on the infrastructure front, which the Prime Minister believes is going to have strong multiplier effects, particularly in job creation.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for those details, those sneak peek of what the budget is going to have the Prime Minister's stamp. We're going to try and get some political reactions to it now. We've got Mr. Narendra Taneja of the BJP. Mr. Taneja, the fact that the Prime Minister is stepping in, controlling the nature of the budget, a reassurance that it's going to be a people-friendly, India Inc.-friendly, it also means it's an acknowledgement from the government that, there's something wrong which is in the economy which needs to be set right, and that's where the Prime Minister is going to play an active role.
Well, you're free to your interpretation, but that's not what it is. You see, the Prime Minister is the head of the Council of Ministers, and any process, especially when it comes to something as important as as the budget. Of course, the Prime Minister is traditionally has always been involved since 1947, but the budget is the responsibility of the Finance Minister, and she is the one who is presiding over the budget, activities. But at the same time, Prime Minister, other ministers, Commerce Minister, Finance Minister, even at the party level, there are a lot of meetings going on at different levels. The thing is that when some top industrialists come and meet the Prime Minister, that is noticed by the media and the pictures appears all across the media. But that does mean that, the other minister or the Prime Minister also, is not meeting other people. So there are at least 4 or 5 delegations every day meeting different ministers and also meeting the party officials. And the whole idea is basically to take the maximum possible feedback from the people so that the budget is more people-friendly. That's what it is. And we want to, at the end of the day, the budget is for the people. And when it comes to the growth and everything, that is always the agenda. If there are some issues, if there are some concerns, we are there as a government to address them. And so it's just part of the routine exercise, nothing more than that. Economy is doing very well. Fundamentals are very strong. Structurally, economy is one of the best and one of the strongest in the world. And there are some cyclical issues, and those are addressed, with new policy initiatives, new procedural initiatives, so on and so forth. So that's what's going on.
To join in, yes, Gaurav.
Yeah, so, Mr. Taneja said that the economy is doing well, but the data does not say that. And I think the Prime Minister is spending so much of time on economic matters and operations related to budget announcements does show that the government there is a degree of concern within the government and about the state of the economy, and the budget is one occasion where the government can actually come out with a series of policy announcements, which the Prime Minister is overseeing, personally overseeing. So I would expect the budget this time to have a lot of Mr. Modi's signature written all over it. And if the announcements are big and bold, as we have been told by some sources, we expect this budget to be very significant in terms of policy announcements.
Mr.
Taneja, would you want to respond to what Gaurav is saying?
You see the policy announcement. You don't have to wait for the budget to make policy announcements. I mean, just day before yesterday, the government made some very, very serious policy announcement in terms of coal sector, in terms of number of other sectors. So that's an ongoing process. Your budget is a totally different thing. Budget is basically nothing but a statement of the revenues, that the projected revenues and projected expenditure for the next 12 months. And along the way, if the government feels necessary, they do make some announcements and some, corrections and course corrections, so on and so forth. But as far as the policy initiatives are concerned, we don't wait for the budget for that. Practically every week we make policy announcements. Every day, 6 new initiatives are taken and announcements made. So this is a government that doesn't sleep. But when it comes to the budget, there are some, the GDP is a little bit down and all that. So that's being rectified, that's being addressed. And we are also consulting regularly with various state governments, because at the end of the day, don't forget, you see the national GDP is the total sum of the GDP of states also, because we are a union of states. So we are in touch with various states in terms of how to boost growth and how to, create more jobs and so on and so forth. So that's an ongoing exercise, which is part of the routine job. The Prime Minister meets the industrialists is a routine. If you look at the archives of your own channels.
I think what Gaurav Gaurav, that's exactly what you were reporting also, isn't it? I mean, normally meeting representatives of India Inc. is something which Nirmala Sitharaman, the finance minister, does as a part of her routine. She's still doing it. But so many meetings planned at the Council of Ministers as well, Gaurav. Isn't that an indication that the Prime Minister really is stepping in, because he knows the priority will have to be the economy? His stamp needs to be there on the budget. The Prime Minister is spending so much of time in these meetings, which otherwise in a normal year is done by the Finance Minister. Exactly.
Is a sign that the Prime Minister is now willing to take charge of something of the state of the economy, which probably there is a degree of...
Give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds.
Yes.
30 seconds, please.
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
No, I'm saying is that you are probably, it's important to dig into your own archive. Prime Minister keeps meeting, corporate industrial leaders all the time. These are regular meetings which happen. I mean, and meeting with the top industrialists, especially the CEOs of the top 20 companies. I mean, that's a routine process. He meets them here, meets them at sometime Davos. He has also met them sometime overseas. Those are very routine meetings. At the same time, so coming on the, if they are coming closer to the budget because they want something to convey to the Prime Minister, that's again is a part of the whole thing. It does not mean that there is any crisis. There is no such thing. As I said, economy is doing very well. We are focusing on how can we basically boost GDP, boost growth. The next quarter, we are quite confident that we'll achieve that. But that it does not convey anything more than that. There's a meeting with the industrial leaders, captains, and leaders of other sectors of the Indian economy. That's a routine process.
Gaurav, would you want to add on?
Well, yeah. The meeting with industrialists may be a routine process, but the meeting with industrialists with the Prime Minister is just 2 weeks before the budget is not a routine thing if you go by past record practices. But the important thing here is that the amount of time that the Prime Minister is spending with each ministry, particularly over the last 10 days or so. And some of these meetings are going out for 10, 12 hours, where he has sought detailed presentations on about 5-year vision of each of these ministries and what needs to be done so far as appropriate policy interventions are concerned. That is something which is not really routine, and I would like Mr. Taneja to respond to that.
Yes, Mr. Taneja.
I'm saying is that this is budget. Let me go back to this. Budget is a totally different thing. Budget is an exercise where you make an annual statement of accounts, basically expenditure and revenue. But when it comes to these meetings can also happen after the budget. Policy announcement can be made anytime. And which, as I said, is a routine thing. To say that government is everything about the budget, all these meetings and all these interactions and all that, that's the point I'm trying to... That is not the case. That is not the case. These are routine meetings.
It may not be the case. These meetings may not be related to the budget, but it does give the impression that the government is actually concerned about the state of the economy and the Prime Minister wants to step in and nurse it back to health.
Well, government is on the job. You see, whether it's economy, whether it's agriculture, whether it's education, health, or everything. That's the job of the government. That's part of the governance. So that's how the government functions. We work 24/7, and we keep on we are always trying to, deliver on the promises made to the people. That's how the government functions. This is not to convey that because Prime Minister is meeting for 10 hours every day and all that, but that's not related to budget. That's just part of the routine thing because the Prime Minister, was always taking a stock of the situation, reviewing performance in the various ministries. Part of that. Nothing to do with the budget.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Taneja. Thank you very much, Gaurav, for getting us a news break. Whatever it is, it's a budget certainly which everyone is going to be looking at very keenly given the economic downturn and the statistics which are coming out. But it's going to be a hands-on Prime Minister's budget certainly, which is going to be presented on the 1st of February in Parliament this year. This and much, much more, the news on news18.com. News continues over here on CNN News.